So here's the update on the swear jar if you guys forgot all about it. I know we've been a bit stubborn about cashing it in, but it's just right about here, and it's heavy as a MFer. So yeah, that's the update on the swear jar. When we cash it in, I don't know. Maybe when the Steelers win a playoff game, to which that thing's never going to get cashed in.
I don't know.
Anyway, Steelers Nation, how we doing? Thank you guys so very much for joining us on yet another edition of the Steelers Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football, and this show is presented by Prize Picks. And Steelers Nation, it is almost that time of the year. We are just a little over 2 weeks away from the NFL draft that will be held in Pittsburgh, which we will be in attendance for that.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crowded, but it's Pittsburgh. What do you expect? But you know what? I think it's time for us to come out with our fourth mock draft for this offseason, and this one's going to be a bit of an interesting one, Steelers Nation.
Yeah, we do one of these every year where we trade back. We're going to trade back in this one. It's been 25 years since the Steelers have traded back. We do one of these scenarios every single year for the mock draft season. We're going to do one again this year and leave it to Omar Khan with 12 picks, the most they've had in a long time, to still trade back. But at a cost and at an advantage for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because not only are they trading back, ladies and gentlemen, they're trading up into the second round. Because if they're going to, because they have 12 picks, they don't have to trade back. But if it's at a point where they could still trade up early in the day two, because there's a ton of day two draft prospects that they have looked into for the top 30 visits, which they still have how many to fill?
As of this recording, 14.
They still have 14 to fill in the next 2 weeks.
That is correct.
It's going to get busy.
Yes, it is.
But the majority of the guys they've looked at in the top 30 visits so far have been day two options because they have so many of them. Some of these actually are probably going to go very early day two. So if the Steelers are going to trade back, perhaps they can use some of the picks as an advantage to also trade up, which is what we do in this mock. So to start off this mock, the Steelers trade back from 21 to 28. Yes, they trade with the Houston Texans. Yes, the Houston Texans that beat us in the playoffs. The Steelers trade away picks number 21. They trade their second round pick. And just for fun, they're going to throw in a 7th round, the 230th pick, to the Texans. And they're going to swap first and second round picks. So the Steelers trade 21, 53, and 230 to the Texans for 28 and 38. Since the Texans have an extra second rounder, an early second rounder, they can use that to trade up while we're also going to give them our second rounder. That way we still keep our thirds, but trade up in the process. We're going to trade up 15 spots. I'm aware that might be a bit of a long shot, but I'm also trying to cover all bases here because that's something Omar Khan would definitely do. It's something he hasn't done, but with the ammo he has and the players he's been looking at and who they've talked to, who they brought off the top 30 visits and more to come, frankly, if they're going to trade back, I think that they definitely have the ammo to secure themselves an earlier second round pick because there's a ton of talent that's going to follow the first and there's a ton of talent early day two that is just most likely not going to be there at 53 that the Steelers have really looked into. Mostly at the corner position, at the receiver position, right? I mean, they've looked at some of the linebackers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's very telling. I'm trying to read between the lines here. So we're going to start this mock with the 28th pick. With the 28th pick via the Houston Texans, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana. He is definitely a first-round receiver in my opinion, to the point I am incredibly comfortable with taking him at 21, depending on how the board falls. But if they want to trade back and still get him at 28, listen, I think that's a hell of a bargain because Omar Cooper is a very tough, very physical, very reliable wide receiver, the reigning Natty champion that helped Indiana get 13 receiving touchdowns last year. He was a big playmaker for Signetti, for Mendoza, for that entire Indiana Hoosiers offense. He is 22 years old. He's got the ideal size, 6 foot, 199. This guy is primarily going to play in the slot. He'll fill in perfectly as a wide receiver 3 on the depth chart with DK and Pittman on the outside. He's a slot receiver who also has the flexibility to play outside. In 2024, the majority of his reps were outside. Then, because they lost receivers in the draft and due to injury, he moved inside as a slot, which is definitely a great decision for him, and it benefited the Hoosiers very much.
Oh, it's just a perfect fit for a guy like Cooper. And when you look at the Steelers situation at receiver, of course, that is where he would start as a wide receiver 3 in the slot. And I don't think you can ask for a better spot for him to start off in at wide receiver 3.
No, I think that's a good way to get his feet wet in the NFL. It doesn't give him full receiver responsibilities, but it gives him a very reliable slot option, someone with incredible hands. He only has 5 drops in 3 years on 155 targets. He's got yak ability. He's a tough receiver. He's one of those guys you dunk off for a 5-yard little slant, right? And he'll take it up for a gain of 20, 25, maybe 30, right?
He'll do the rest.
He'll do the rest. He'll get you those tough yards. He'll get you the first downs. He'll move the change. He probably won't be the flashiest wide receiver, but he's going to be one of the more reliable on the field and one of those guys that's going to give you those tough yards, man. Excellent ball skills, strong hands. He's a great blocker, too, a very, very moving blocker.
Oh, he's willing. He's more than willing, bro. He's very physical. And, dude, his ability to break tackles is probably one of the better guys that can do it at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, 27 missed tackles forced.
Which was tied 4th among receivers with 50 or more targets thrown in their direction. So it's like, if you're a defensive back and you're trying to tackle this guy, you better wrap him up, because if you don't, you're going to regret it.
I know a lot of people compare him to Debo, but I do see a lot of Debo Samuel in his
We're
game.
talking prime Debo Samuel here, like Pro Bowl Debo Samuel.
No, we're not saying Omar Cooper's going to line up a running back. No, but in terms of his receiving skills and his route running ability, which definitely could use some work, but that's where you start him in the slot initially. You give him the ball, you let him essentially be that bowling ball, that tough receiver up the field, right? He's someone you can line up all over the field, and he's going to do what you have to do at the wide receiver position. He's another one of very many wide receivers in this class that do everything right at that position. He just makes everything look really crisp, really clean at the position. He might not be the flashiest first-round receiver, because there's plenty others, but he's definitely one of the more reliable and a very safe option at wide receiver, which is no problem with me. We still need to address receiver. We still need more reliability. We're going to need someone with a bit of a dominance factor in anything he can do. He's definitely got some work in terms of the route running or his technique, right? But give him time. He's still very young, and he's got NFL speed as well. So his athleticism is not to be forgotten about.
And for him to start at wide receiver 3 to work on his route running and everything else that he still needs development on, that's the perfect fit for him. And that's a good fit for him and the Steelers at that. And even some of the catches that he makes is just kind of crazy how somebody of his frame can make catches just outside his radius. Like, it goes to show his capabilities, his reliability at that with his hands, and just the type of athlete he is.
Yeah.
For him to be a wide receiver 3 to start off, to develop on his way to working potentially outside down the road, but to start as the 3, again, it's a good fit for him and the Steelers at that.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, you look at our yak ability, right, from the receiver position, we don't have much of it. We don't. DK's yak ability is a little underrated, but it's not seen as much. Pittman, you know, he doesn't have much yak ability. He's one of those another really tough receivers that you rely on the outside to make them tough catches, right? But we need that yak ability. We're going to need that elusive guy, that guy that can get up the field and use his speed and use his big frame, his stocky build to do what he has to do on the field. Omar Cooper's going to bring that on day one. I like Omar Cooper a lot. You know, as a first-round receiver in terms of receiver options, I would put Cooper probably as my 5. Like, I'm going to go Lemon, I'm going to go Tyson, I'm going to go Tate, and then I'm going to go Concepcion. I like Concepcion a lot. There's drop issues with him. If we trade back, I don't know if he'll be there at 28, which is why we go Cooper here. Cooper's my 5.
Okay.
But I do like Cooper a lot as a first-round target, as a first-round receiver. I think he'll be a later first-round selection. I will gladly take him at 21 if that's the case. I don't think that's overbearing of a reach and what many people would think it would be. It's not, in my opinion. But I like Omar Cooper a ton. For a wide receiver 3 who could line up anywhere, he has that versatility to line up all over the field, which Mike McCarthy did mention that's kind of the receiver they're looking for. This is the right class for them to look in, that kind of player. Omar Cooper, one of the best at his craft and what he does.
Just fits the mold, dude. And a touchdown magnet at that. 20 touchdowns over 2 seasons with 13 of them last year. That's the guy that you're looking for.
I like Omar Cooper a ton, man. Now, the 38th overall pick. So we trade up in the second. We keep all our thirds. But we trade up 15 spots in the second round to take D'Angelo Pons, defensive back out of Indiana. Why not double dip with the Hoosiers again? Why not? You know, the Steelers love to double dip at schools. They've done it for years. Like, I could go down at least the past 10 years. They've double dipped at many schools.
They double-dipped at Iowa. They double-dipped at Ohio State just last year with Sawyer and Will Howard. So
They
it's very well
double-dipped at
possible.
Georgia. They double-dipped at, remember, Tennessee with Dobbs and Cam Sutton?
Wisconsin.
Ben
and Herbig, right? Like, they always love to do it. Omar Khan is a guy that is... It's always a trend with Omar Khan. I think that continues, especially with how many picks that we are supposed to have.
That's going back even to 2020 with Dan Moore and Buddy Johnson from Texas A&M.
Yeah, let's not bring up those
I'm just saying, they love to double dip at schools, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers do it early. A guy like D'Angelo Pons, we put in our very first mock pre-free agency. We had him at 52, or 53 rather. The problem with Pons is he's not going to be at 53.
No, did you see the 40 he ran?
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll be there at the Steelers pick at 53.
And not just because of his speed, but just what he brings to the table as a football player. The dude is one of the top players at his position, and one of the more productive cornerbacks in the draft.
Like you just know this guy is going to be one of the better slot corners in the NFL. Like, he played outside his entire college career, right? Going back to,
James Madison.
Yeah, James Madison with Kurt Signetti, who obviously he, along with so many other players, followed him to Indiana, and it all worked out for him. He played outside his entire college career. He's 5'9", 182. Now, he does have a great vertical, 43.5 vertical jump.
It's insane.
For his size, yeah. Like, I don't worry about his size. But on the outside, probably not the best fit. That's why you put him in the slot. Bam, he's your day one slot guy.
And I don't think the transition is going to be difficult for a guy like Pons.
No.
It's
for
not.
him, for his speed and his size and his tackling ability, he can blitz as well. He's a ball hawk. He's a tough lockdown receiver. Like, this is the physical, long speed matchup you want on any receiver at the next level. Pons is going to be, you just know, when you look at a guy, when you look at a football player, you know you're getting a certified dog.
Mm-hmm.
D'Angelo Pons, man, yeah, he might be small. He might have a small stature, but don't let his size fool you, bro. This guy is physical. He's a strong tackler. He likes to lay the hammer. He has great route recognition, a good eye on the quarterback, right? He sniffs out, reads before the quarterback even knows what he's doing. Not exaggerating either. Like, D'Angelo Pons is a tough football player.
And he carries championship pedigree, just like Omar Cooper, who we took with the 28th pick, and double-dip at Indiana, because the Steelers always love to do that. They always like to look for guys with championship pedigree, championship caliber-like players coming out of the draft. Pons is one of those guys. And he did that in the biggest games throughout their championship run, because he was the defensive player of the game for both the Rose Bowl versus Alabama and the Peach Bowl versus Oregon, where in that game versus Oregon, he picked off Dante Moore on the first play of the game for a pick six.
Yes, he did.
So again, with Pons, you're going to get a dog. Even if he has to move over to slot, which would be his best fit in the NFL, the guy's more than capable of doing it. Knows how to track the ball. He's physical tackler for both the pass and the run game. And just
7 career interceptions.
Yes.
So if you
a ball hawk.
Yeah, so if you want that ball hawk ability, I mean, he's had 5 interceptions the last 2 years in Indiana. This is why we not only trade back to secure our receiver, right? But this gives the Steelers an option to trade up in the second and go get someone that you just know isn't going to be there at 53. If they want to go guard early, they could take a guard very early that might fall into the first, or maybe I'm not going to lie to you, we entertained Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon early on here. He might go in the first. I know he's an older rookie. Entertain Chase Bisontis again, right? We decided to go Pons here because slot corner. And I like the idea of trading up and still getting him because I think that's the most realistic for the Steelers. We have the 76, 85, and 99 still in the third round. Steelers trade up. So not only do we trade back, we're going to trade up in this draft from 76 to 61. The Steelers trade up with the Rams for the 61st overall pick in exchange for the 76th pick that the Steelers got from Dallas via the Pickens trade, and they trade one of their fourths, the comp pick they got, the 135th pick. They trade up 15 spots, again, and only give up the 76th pick and their fourth rounder.
But they trade up to get back into the second round.
The very end of the second round. And you know the Rams like to trade some of their picks, and they're going to have a bit of a gap in between day 2 and day 3. So they're probably looking for extra picks early day 3, right? That's where the Steelers come into play. They got a ton of them. They need a guard. So they trade up, get back into the second, and take someone that they might not think would be there at 76. And frankly, is one of my more favorite guard prospects in this draft class. And if the Steelers want to go guard day 2 at any point, he might be there 76, but I'm a lot more comfortable trading up and giving up one of our day 3 picks just to secure him. With the 61st overall pick, after the Steelers trade up, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Kalen Rutledge, guard out of Georgia Tech. You want to talk about physicality. You want to talk about tough. You want to talk about violence. Kalen Rutledge, man, reminds me a lot of McCormick. Funny enough, McCormick was a left guard coming out of South Dakota State, moved to right guard. Rutledge has played right guard his entire college career. So you would move him to left guard, which is just another one of those things the Steelers would do, is move one player to one side to the other, which frankly has done McCormick wonders, and he's filled that spot perfectly. Rutledge, I think that the transition will be just as smooth. I think what he does is very, very dominant. He has a bully mentality. He's a mauler. 2-year starter for the Yellow Jackets at right guard after transferring from Middle Tennessee. You move him to left, he's a strong run defender, bro. That is his bread and butter. His run blocking is really good. It's improved over time.
I think he's a stout anchor in pass protection because he has not given up a sack in 2 years.
That's incredible.
During his whole Yellow Jackets career for Georgia Tech, he has not given up 1 sack. He's only given up 3 quarterback hits, 6 quarterback hurries, and 9 pressures on 809 combined pass blocking snaps in that span when he was a Yellow Jacket.
That's impressive.
So I think he's a very stout pass protector. Hence, you look at his style of play as a guard. It's very reminiscent of Mason McCormick, and he's an anchor at right guard. And get a guy very similar to McCormick of his play style, but of his youth and his size and just his violent tenacity as a offensive lineman there. I mean, like, you can't beat that one bit.
Yeah, and only at 22 years old, this is another selection at guard that would literally just solidify the line for the next decade. Like, you're solidifying your guard position specifically. At least your interior offensive lineman for the next decade. Rutledge, Frazier, and McCormick in the middle. I don't care who's getting the fucking football, bro. If they're running right up the middle in front of those guys, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about it. Whatever running back's in the football, I know they're smiling ear to ear, knowing that they would have those 3 guys playing the lead blocks or having McCormick or Rutledge play pull guard to whatever side, right? I mean, that's just an enticing thing to think about when it comes to the Steelers' offensive line. Guard is still a big need, and I think if they're going to take a guard, it's going to be no later than the 3rd round. But you're also running the risk of taking someone that might be considered a little too early to select because some of the top ones might be gone. Pregnon might fall. Besantis might fall. Rutledge might fall. You know, Jennings Dunker, right? He's definitely going to have to move to guard. He might fall. Guard is a sweet spot in the 1st or in the 2nd round. If they don't take Vega in the 1st, if he doesn't fall, or if they don't trade up for him, day 2 is the sweet spot for guard, which is why we take Rutledge here. I like a lot of what he brings to the table. You know, there are concerns with his hand placement, maybe his pad level a little bit, which again is very easy to coach.
That's all coachable.
Yes.
That's very coachable with a good offensive line coach. And you look at Campion's background as O-line coach, it sounds like a good fit. And the Steelers did bring him in for a top 30 visit.
And as of Easter, which is when this is being recorded, happy Easter to you guys. Hope you guys have a great holiday.
Yes.
He is so far the only guard that they have brought in for a top 30 visit.
So far.
Won't be the last, but so far is the only guard they brought in for a top 30 visit, which is very telling.
But is a very good option at guard. He is one of my favorites at the guard position as a day 2 selection. Just a violent offensive line. And you look at the Steelers' offensive line, the young guys that they got, Frazier, McCormick, Fatanu, right? Just violent. They play O-line violently. This guy fits like a glove with that mentality.
I watch his tape and I think, man, that's a Steelers guard if I've ever seen one.
Yes.
You know, there's a bunch of them I watch and I think that, but Rutledge, man, I really do like him. I like him a lot more than some of the other guard prospects, if I'm going to be real with you. Why he's being selected later is a bit questionable to me. Frankly, that could be the Steelers' benefit. But just to secure the guard position, we trade up 15 spots once again to go get our guy at the bottom of the 2nd round. Steelers have the picks to do it. Omar Khan could get very creative in this draft, man, especially with it being in Pittsburgh.
Again, the flexibility.
Love Kalen Rutledge, man. I really do. The 85th pick, the Steelers' 3rd rounder, right? One of the 3rd rounders. This could go anywhere. This could honestly go quarterback. This could go linebacker, maybe safety, maybe another receiver. One guy that's really starting to grow on me and is really looking like a strong possibility to be a legitimate Steelers pick, dare I say a potential lock, With the 85th pick, the Steelers select Kyle Lewis, linebacker out of Pittsburgh. First of all, Omar Khan was at the Pitt Pro Day, which of course he was. It's right next door.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be there?
It's still telling, though, that the general manager of a football team is at your pro day.
Yes, and not only that, they obviously talked to him at the Combine. He's right there next door, so they already know him in and out. And the linebacking coach for the Steelers, Scott McCurley, was running him through drills.
At Pitt's pro day.
And they did bring him in for a local visit, a local top 30 visit, which of course they did.
So that's a lot of interest for a guy like Kyle Lewis. And if you look at his play style and how he is at the linebacker position, but despite his size, he's 6 foot 220. He's still one of the more talented linebackers in this class.
Yes, he is undersized, which gives people a lot of concern, which might many people are saying, hey, maybe he can move to safety and be a bigger, stockier safety, which isn't a bad thing. I also look at this as, hey, you want to put him in dime packages as the power slot, as a bigger slot option? This guy's one of the better coverage linebackers in the entire draft. Like, he is very fast. He's got the sideline-to-sideline speed. He's got great athleticism. He knows how to work the run game. He can read running lanes, and he can shoot the gaps, and he can really get down and dirty against the ball carrier very early into the rushing attack, right? He has all the qualities you like at a linebacker, minus the size. But I'm not really concerned about his size, man, because I think that could be a benefit for him in terms of leverage. He already has the speed. He has the IQ. He has the tangibles. He has the coverage ability. I like a lot of what Kyle Lewis brings to the table, man. He is just a playmaker.
Yep.
He's versatile. He's got an eye for the football. He had 81 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 2 interceptions just last year. 6 interceptions the last 2 years. Like, this guy's a playmaker. This guy knows how to turn the ball over. He is just a stout of a linebacker, in my opinion.
And that production, man, it's hard to overlook. Again, despite his size, he is just one of those guys that has always been reliable. For the Panthers defense, he was no doubt about it their biggest playmaker on defense and arguably the best defensive player overall.
Yeah.
You look at what he brings to the table. Again, his production, it's hard to overlook, and his versatility just speaks for itself. Like, he's one of those guys that, because of his coverage ability, his coverage upside, you can trust him to cover those tight ends. You can trust him to cover those running backs in the flat, or even for slot receivers, right?
Yes.
Like he's that versatile and that capable of covering even slot receivers.
You know, I'm also going to say this. You know, people question his size. Maybe you have to move to safety. If he has to move to safety, by all means. That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
But I also look at a guy like Patrick Queen. There are a lot of people saying, oh, he's undersized. And I'm not saying he isn't. He's 6 foot 232. Give Kyle Lewis some time. He's gonna add on a couple pounds. He's gonna add more mass and muscle. He could be a bit of a stockier linebacker, a little undersized, same size as Patrick Queen. But if Patrick Queen can be the green dot, I mean, I could see Kyle Lewis coming in, being a great rotational guy, filling in early on obvious passing downs, right? And then, frankly, Lord knows what the future holds for Patrick Queen. So I'm looking at Kyle Lewis as a potential Patrick Queen replacement linebacker. Worst case, you move him to safety, and he's a strong-ass safety. But to me, I think, you know what? He can play linebacker. He's a little undersized at it, but you give him a little time to really work and work on the mass. Again, he wouldn't come in and be the green dot. He wouldn't come in and be the starter. He is just a rotational piece to work in obvious passing downs, to be that great coverage linebacker that we need. And then eventually, I think his role could very much increase. We don't know what Queen's future holds, which is why in a lot of mocks, we're taking linebacker mad early.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the Steelers could do it because day 2 is a sweet spot for linebacker as well. I don't know how early they take linebacker, but day 2 is just like guard, a great sweet spot. It is stacked with day 2 linebackers. Linebacker itself is stacked. There's going to be a ton of linebackers that go in the first.
Mm-hmm.
But day 2, same thing, man. Anthony Hill, the Steelers like a lot. Jay Gaudet, the Steelers like a lot. Kyle Lewis, Josiah Trotter, Jacob Rodriguez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Linebacker is stacked, man. And Kyle Lewis, if he's there at 85, you know, it's just one of those players that the Steelers just might not want to pass on. Like, they've covered all their bases. They got their receiver, they got their corner, they got their guard. Here at 85, they can kind of go anywhere. And if Lewis is on the board, frankly, he's just one of those guys that they have at the top of the draft board that they just can't pass on. So that's why we go Kyle Lewis here. I think he's really starting to pick up a lot of steam in Pittsburgh. Hey guys, quick timeout from this episode. I want to talk about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks application that's available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida, and it's real easy to use. All you gotta do is pick more or less on a few player picks and lock in your lineup. It's not just for picking player stats either. They have team picks and a bunch of cool stuff in the culture section that can be featured in any kind of entertainment field. I have the app here on my iPhone. As you guys can see, we're in the culture section, and they have literally anything and everything you could imagine. Obviously, for us, we're heavy into sports, so they have the MLB, they have the NBA, they have the UFC, they obviously have the NFL when that season comes around. Right here live for the MLB, they have games here and mentions of what the announcers could mention, so you guys can listen closely. You guys can use the free picks tab. You guys can follow along to anything here. But what I like most about the Prize Picks with the free picks tab is you see that at the bottom that says free to play streak. 1 pick a day. Keep the streak alive. Let's play that now, and let's see what we could select and what we could potentially like to select as our essentially lock of the day, right? So let's take Robert Thomas. 1.5 shots on goal. I'm going to select that he will have more. I'm going to lock that in, and that is going to be my pick of the day. Prize Picks, man, go down in the description box below. There is a link that will take you to a sign-up page. If you guys want to sign up for Prize Picks, use code HMA, pay $5, get $50 in lineups when you download the app, and use the link in the description box below and sign up for Prize Picks today. 99, the comp pick we got from Dan Moore. At the end of day 2, the end of the 3rd round, you guys already know our opinion on quarterback and how early we would like them to take it. I am most comfortable with them taking quarterback as early as the 5th round. I don't know if they wait that long, considering they have looked at some of the later day 2 guys, and frankly, with 3 third-round picks, or in this mock 2 of them, but with all the third-round picks that they have and all the positions they could address early, and at the very end of day 2, frankly, I could see them definitely taking quarterback early, which is what we do in this mock. With the 99th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of LSU. If there's a quarterback I would be comfortable with the Steelers taking at the end of day 2, it is Nussmeier. I don't want Drew Allar, and I don't want Ty Simpson. If there's a day 2 quarterback that I would be comfortable with taking, Nussmeier is easily my favorite one. Now, again, I am most comfortable with taking a quarterback as early as the 5th. But here, listen, I wouldn't be shocked if they take Nussmeier day 2 because they like a lot of what he possesses. He's got good size, 6'2", 203. Yeah, he's 24 years old, but at the quarterback position, who cares how old you are?
Exactly.
They can play forever. He had a strong 2024 season, and a lot of his potential is going to be sold on that because 2025 was unfortunately riddled with injuries. It was the most important season for him to maybe get first-round talks. He ain't getting no first-round talks because he was so injured to the point he admitted he had like a stabbing pain in his ab every time he threw the football. It hindered his season.
Not just the injury situation he dealt with last year at LSU, but just the coaches as well, because LSU did fire both Brian Kelly and Joe Sloan, their head coach or former head coach and OC, basically the same day.
Yeah.
So Nussmeier basically had to deal with 2 coaching changes while dealing with the injury on top of that.
Right.
I mean, you got to think that is a difficult situation for a guy like Nussmeier. It's not easy having to go through all that ordeal in basically the biggest year of your college career.
Yeah,
to prove to everybody what you are.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't really have the greatest. He didn't really have the greatest season in terms of everything around him. Like, his surround system wasn't really the best for him. For the most important season, it didn't pan out so well.
I mean, it's no secret it was a rocky campaign for Garrett.
But
it was tough.
There's a connection with Mike McCarthy a little bit because in Dallas, Doug Nussmeier, who is currently the Saints offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier is the father of Garrett Nussmeier. In Dallas, he was the quarterback coach under Mike McCarthy for 3 seasons.
That's right.
So I'm sure Mike McCarthy has his eyes on Garrett Nussmeier. And if there is a day 2 quarterback the Steelers could take at the end of the 3rd because they've covered everything else and they have an extra 3rd because of the comp pick, they could take a quarterback here. And to me, comfortably and only comfortably, day 2 quarterback I would take is Nussmeier because I like his arm. He has the arm talent. He is a tough quarterback. You know, he doesn't take a lot of unnecessary sacks. He's not afraid to take a hit to throw the football, right? You know, he'll sit in the pocket. He'll read the defense. His accuracy is pretty good. You know, the way he reads the defense can be worked on a little bit, but frankly, you're bringing him in. We don't know what the A-Rod situation is, but you're bringing him in to eventually build upon that quarterback room. If you want to have him compete with Will Howard, by all means, listen, I don't hate that. If you're going to have a Will Howard and Garrett Newsmeyer, I'm all for that. I don't mind that at all.
No, honestly, I think that'd be a fine situation for the Steelers at the quarterback position. And I honestly think it's inevitable for the Steelers to take a quarterback within, I would say, the first 2 days. Because I just don't see them waiting very long to select a quarterback, especially with them having 3 third-round picks at that. I could see them, covering their bases within the earlier picks that they got, and then just for the heck of it, throw a flyer at a quarterback.
Yeah.
With most likely, in my opinion, I would say the 99th overall pick for a guy like Nussmeier right here because of the whole A-Rod situation. I mean, we haven't heard anything. There's not really any update. I don't know how long the Steelers wait. I don't agree with reaching for a quarterback or taking a quarterback just because you need one, but for the Steelers, I could see them just throwing a flyer with their third-round comp. I feel like with that, I'd be more comfortable with that, and I'd say it's inevitable for that to happen for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of those things where if they want to take a quarterback at the end of day 2, the 99th pick is the sweet spot because at that point, you've covered every other position, which is why I don't want them to take quarterbacks so early because I'd much rather take all the other positions first, which is what we did in this one. And then we're going to comfortably take Newsmeyer, who, if you want to talk NFL-ready quarterbacks, he's probably the second best quarterback in this class in that.
Arguably.
It's Mendoza number 1, obviously, and then it's a toss-up to anyone else. Ty Simpson, maybe.
I would say
Newsmeyer, I think he's more NFL-ready than Ty Simpson. Jewel R, there's a lot with Jewel R.
He's too raw.
I'm not very fond of him.
He's too raw there.
There's not too many day 3 quarterbacks I would like to take. I mean, we've mocked a couple of them in our previous mocks, but this is the earliest we have the Steelers drafting a quarterback in one of our mocks, which is at the end of day 2. Garrett Newsmeyer, bring him in for competition. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, he'll sit behind. He'll be the 2. He'll be the 3 or whatever, depending on what happens with Mason Rudolph or Will Howard. It's just one of those guys we're going to bring into the room. You bring in extra leadership quality. You bring in extra competition. You bring in some extra competitive spirit. It's not a bad way to look at it for the quarterback room.
And that's the thing that Nussmeier does carry is that competitive spirit and that mentality of fighting. Like, he's a fighter. Like, he's a competitor.
Yeah.
And his teammates at LSU, they definitely fed off of that. No doubt about it. Specifically in 2024. Like, there's no doubt about the season that he had. It was very impressive. That was his first year starting for LSU after being a backup for how many years?
Because 2025 was just a rough season for him with injuries. He didn't get a proper diagnosis until two months.
It was after.
It was after
It was
the season.
2 months after the season is when he got a proper diagnosis. So,
Wow.
like LSU's medical team, they didn't do their job properly, which is pretty shitty in my opinion. Not a good situation for Nussmeier. So, yeah, we're probably relying on the fact that he was injured and the coaching situation over at LSU. It was just not a good year for LSU last year.
Right.
There's no secret about that. So we're relying on the fact that last year was not really the best situation for him and relying on 2024. But just the performance that he had in 2024, I mean, it's no secret he burst onto the scene. He did great.
Yeah.
He looked composed. He looked confident. And he does carry that confidence in the pocket.
Yeah.
Like, he is a prototypical pocket passer.
Now, he's also not the most mobile, but he has a little bit of athleticism to him where he can extend plays with his feet. He can rush out the pocket, throw on the run, lead his receivers right. This is just bringing in competition for the quarterback room. And then, frankly, ideally, you have him and Howard work it out. And then we'll see how the season goes. Worst case, Newsmeyer is just another backup. At the end of day 3, listen, we've had Mason Rudolph for how many years? And he was a 3rd-round pick. Steelers actually traded up for him.
They did.
So,
if anything, you get a decent backup. A capable backup, if anything.
And frankly, that's very important at the quarterback position.
And
we know that.
And the competition that we're talking about with Will Howard, a guy like Nussmeier could very well be that competition.
I agree.
I don't think that's bad competition one bit because at least you're taking a chance and going with a project.
And it's worth noting that the Steelers' director of player scouting, Mark Sadowski, was indeed at the LSU Pro Day. Just throwing it out.
I don't think it's any secret that Nussmeier has the interest of the Steelers just based off the McCarthy connection from his dad and whatnot.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit. And he's one of those guys that I'd be up for it. I wouldn't hate it one bit.
If there's a day 2 quarterback I don't mind taking, it's Newsmeyer, but it would have to wait until the end of the third.
You don't reach for him. You don't do that.
No.
If he falls to later day 2, I could see that being the selection.
Even if he falls to day 3, I think that's a better value pick. I just don't think he will. I don't.
I don't know, man. Because we know Mendoza's one. We know that. When it comes to guys like Simpson and Nussmeier, it's a toss-up. Like, we really don't know.
Even Carson Beck, who the Steelers brought in for top 30 visit. No, thank you.
Nah.
Cole Payton, who they brought in for top 30 visit. I like Cole Payton a lot. We mocked him in 2 of our mocks so far. Taylon Green, they brought in for a top 30 visit. He's incredibly raw, but unbelievably athletic, as we all know. He's more of like a mid to later day 3 pick. But it's kind of tough to judge where some of these quarterbacks are going to go. Very much like 2022.
Or 2022, or even last year at that.
Yeah, because Kenny was the only first-round quarterback. And when was the next time a quarterback was selected after that? Was it the 3rd round with Ritter?
I think it was, yeah, with the Falcons.
Yeah, so this might be the same thing.
It might be.
Might be the same thing.
It might be.
At least with some of these guys, you have a little bit of higher upside. Newsmeyer, probably the second best or second most NFL-ready quarterback in this class, in my opinion. We get into day 4. We only have three, sorry.
Round 4.
Yeah, round 4. We only have 1 4th rounder because we traded that one to trade up for Rutledge. So with the 121st pick, we're going to go defensive line. Another one of these positions that I don't know exactly where they're going to take, or wouldn't surprise me if they take it early, if they set back because the room is stacked. But you're also still looking for that nose, that ultimate future nose guy, right? But if you want to add some extra versatility along the line, this is one of the more better day 3 options.
Yeah, so with the 121st overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Chris McClellan, defensive tackle out of Missouri, or Mizzou, however you like to say it.
Yeah, 6'4", 313, 22 years old. Bro, this had 11-inch hands, rather.
Yeah,
34-inch arms.
Yes, but the 11-inch hands is actually some of the biggest and strongest hands in the draft.
Yes.
And he uses that very well in his game.
Yeah, I mean, we've mocked some of the bigger defensive linemen in terms of that size and that frame in previous mocks, like Big Citrus, Dominic Orange out of Iowa State, Daryl Jackson, and our last one from Florida State, right?
Yeah.
Chris McClellan is more of like a day 3 option if you want to go later for a nose tackle position, but this guy honestly has some underrated pass rush upside. 6 sacks last year, 8 tackles for loss. This guy has, honestly, the best of both worlds. He can stop the run. He can play the nose. If you want to move him to 3 tech, you can even move him to the 5 if you wanted to, because he has that athleticism and that explosiveness on the line, which is a good thing because we're going to need that extra depth. But I think where he could fit initially is that nose, because you want that massive frame. You want those long arms and those big hands to essentially clog the gaps. You want that closer in the middle of that defense. I think that's where he could start and then eventually move off as a backup 3 tech, because we already have our 3 techs. We already have our backups there. Sebastian Joseph Day is kind of that guy. He can play the nose too, but more so that 3 tech rotational guy. McClellan can start as the nose and then eventually move over to that 3 tech rotational piece, right? Because he has that pass rush upside, which is something you don't see a lot at the nose tackle position. So if you want to play him as the 0 tech or as the 1, you have him come in and then he has a bull rush that is just violent, that is very intense, that he has that pass rush upside when you bring him in. So he's not just a one-dimensional guy. He's not just being brought in as just, hey, just stop the run. That's where he would start. But you have some confidence that, hey, this guy has a little bit of pass rush upside that, you know, he might be able to cause some pressure and really start attacking the box, start really closing the box, right, along with everyone else on the defensive line. He's athletic for his position.
Very, very. He's a consistent tackler. He knows how to locate the ball carrier, reliable at stopping the run, hence why he would start at the nose right there. And when offensive linemen go up against him in one-on-ones, he's a problem to deal with just because of how quick and strong he is just with his size. And, again, his arm length and his hand size and whatnot. Just, yeah, it's a mix of both worlds. It's the best of both worlds at that.
Yeah, it is. That's why we take him here in the 4th round to add an extra room or add an extra piece to the defensive line room and still trying to look for that nose. And frankly, you know, there's actually a decent amount of, you know, nose tackles or 0 techs that you could bring in at any spot in the draft. They're going to fill that spot very nicely for the Steelers. But McClellan has a little bit more of that versatility to him where you start him in a spot and then you eventually branch him out into a bigger role later down the road. Man, McClellan is just a bit of an attacker on the defensive line. He's strong, man.
I've read and seen people kind of compare him to Seahawks defender Jerron Reed.
That's a good comp.
That's actually not a bad comparison.
Start him out as a rotational role, and then frankly, yeah, I think this guy would just be an extra piece and add some extra juice to the defensive line position, which is already stacked. But why not add a little more in the fourth round?
Just add some more youth, just add some more bodies to the defensive line. They always like to add a lot of bodies to the defensive line. You can't really beat it in a guy like McClellan, who has pass rush upside, but is more than capable at filling the nose, stop the run. It's a good selection.
Right.
Good player.
There's a lot of good players coming out of Mizzou this year, actually. Plenty of them, actually.
Yes, there are.
Now we go to the 5th round, the 161st pick. We go from one tackle to another tackle position. Yes, we're going to go offensive tackle here. It's hard to pinpoint where they're going to go offensive tackle if they go offensive tackle. In fact, day 3 really isn't a great class for the tackle position. It's not, which really puts the Steelers in a tough spot at the left tackle position specifically because we don't know how healthy Broderick's going to be for training camp. We obviously have Dylan Cook, who filled in just nicely there and frankly is looking like the starter right now. We're still going to need some extra depth. We're going to need some swing ability, and we're going to need some competition. That's why we go here in the 5th round with the 161st pick. The Steelers select J.C. Davis, offensive tackle out of Illinois. 6'4", 322, 22 years old as well. You kind of notice a theme here. A lot of 22-year-olds. You want these young guys, man, with a ton of potential. The biggest thing about him is he has never missed a game.
No, he is a 4-year starter at left tackle, and that's dating back to 2022 when he started at New Mexico. And he has started 49 consecutive games across 3 different programs, which goes to show his reliability and his durability that he brings to the table, which is what you want, especially at the offensive line.
Yeah, he transferred to Illinois in 2024 and has been a stout blocker for quarterback Luke Altmaier, who's another day 3 quarterback I want to mind later on. He has done well blocking for him for 2 years, and he's limited the mistakes year by year, including his penalties, which is very telling. He committed 9 penalties in 2024.
Which is a lot.
It is it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But in 2025, he took that 9 to a 1.
Only one.
Only 1.
So it goes to show his work ethic and his ability to work on the mistakes and limit the mistakes at that. And being a 4-year starter, being a guy that just never let up the job, never gave it away, or even missed a snap at that, it's what you want to see.
It shows his growth. Not only has he never missed a game, 49 consecutive starts at the left tackle position, which tells you this guy's a natural left tackle. He can move over to the right if he needs to, but most comfortably, he's at left tackle. He is very reliable there. He is very, very durable, so he's never missed a game. But the second he got to Illinois, yeah, he had a little bit of bumps, with 9 penalties and whatnot. And then once he got comfortable there and he found some consistency at a program, he really bettered his game, man. He shows a lot of improvement year by year, which is what you want to see at the tackle position. Like I said, day 3 isn't really a great class for tackles, but frankly, if you're going to take one with the ideal arm length, someone that's going to be a natural fit there, someone you could develop as a depth piece and perhaps competition, J.C. Davis is up there, man.
Yeah, and you look at his starting profile, I would say that, a true chance for him to potentially develop as a starter at left tackle, I don't think it's far-fetched, just with the pedigree that he brings because...
Oh, he absolutely has starting
because
potential.
of his profile right there.
Now, I mean, he wouldn't be the starter immediately.
No, then I'm not saying that, and I don't expect that one bit for J.C. Davis.
But if you want to work him up to work with his starting potential, listen, I think that there's a lot of potential there. He's going to work on a lot with his game. He's going to have to continue to drop those penalties, especially in the big league, right? It's going to be an interesting transition, but I like a lot what he brings to the table in pass protection, his run blocking. He's a mauler in the run game as well. He's got some athleticism to him. Like I said, he has that swing ability. There is going to have to be some issues he's going to have to fix with his footwork or maybe his hand placement.
Or even his
level.
Like his posture and whatnot. But again, all that very coachable.
Very, very coachable, especially with James Campen, who has a history of developing guys where Davis would be selected here.
But to start off as that depth guy at left tackle or even be a swing tackle for both left and right, because we don't exactly have a true swing tackle, at least not off the top of my head right now. So to bring him in to fill that role initially to start off his career, that's a good fit for him.
Yeah, I agree. This is a patient blocker that can do everything you ask him to. You can move him around. But frankly, I think he'd be a good selection here in the 5th round just to solidify a little bit more on the offensive line and just that extra depth. Because frankly, right now, we don't have it.
No, not really.
We
Not
don't.
really.
We don't. So that's why we go J.C. Davis here, comfortably in the 5th round. We get into the 6th round now, the 216th pick. You notice so far we've only taken one wide receiver, Omar Cooper. We're going to have to go receiver at some point again because I am very, very positive, and I've been stressing it all offseason, Steelers have to double dip a wide receiver at some point in this class. It could be Matt Early, which I would highly encourage, or it could be, hey, let's take one early, 1st, 2nd round, and then if they want to wait till day 3, they have so many picks, and there's plenty of receivers day 3 they could take for certain roles, which is where we take one here in the 6th round. And someone they did indeed bring in for a top 30 visit, very telling. With the 216th overall pick, the Steelers select Kendrick Law, wide receiver out of Kentucky. Law and order over here for special teams.
Chong. Sorry.
5'11", 203. He's a bit of a stockier receiver with great athleticism. He has some athletic upside to him.
No, a lot. I mean, he ran a 4.45 40. He had a 42-inch vertical and 21 bench reps at the combine.
Yeah, which honestly, like when you look at his film or you look at his stats, really, I mean, stats don't tell it all. But if you look at his production, there's not a lot of production.
No, because he started his collegiate career at Alabama the first 3 years, which during his time at Alabama, he never really saw a lot of offensive opportunities because he never eclipsed 150 receiving yards as he was primarily used for special teams, to which that's a big thing that he carries to the NFL is his ability as a kick returner or even as a special teams gunner.
Yeah.
But his opportunity as an offensive weapon didn't really see a lot of that at Alabama, so he transferred to Kentucky in 25, where his only opportunity as an offensive weapon was showcased when he finished with 53 catches, 540 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yes.
But the majority of his catches coming from behind the line, but he made the most of it because the guy is another one of those catch-and-run receivers that can break tackles just because of his stocky build and his athleticism and his yak ability.
Right.
And he's been a reliable target, too. The guy doesn't really drop the ball often when the ball's thrown in his direction.
No. So you got someone that's stocky, you got someone with athletic background. His receiving upside is limited, but also a little underrated because we haven't seen much of it. But frankly, his best spot in making the roster is special teams because that's his bread and butter. That's his ace right there. He can bring in some kick return experience as he had that at Alabama and Kentucky, but he can also be that gunner. Yes, we have that in Ben Skoranek, right? Who's probably going to be a special teams captain this year with Killebrew gone. But frankly, you can never have too many special teams aces. You can't. You got Ben Skoranek. You have Carson Bruner. Ideally, you have Kendrick Law here. You could bring in someone else. There's plenty full of other gunners, right?
Travis Homer,
yeah, definitely, because we brought him in for the running back position.
right?
So you can never have too many good gunners anywhere on the team, but especially at the wide receiver position. Frankly, this also could be a bit of an edge for Roman Wilson because we don't know what his role is. He could be the 4, he could be the 5. He might not make the roster. Maybe you bring in a guy like Kendrick Law in the 6th round, and you give him a little bit of an edge and say, "Hey, this is kind of your competition. Let's see what you got." But you're bringing in Kendrick Law mostly to cover special teams because this guy would be your kick returner initially, but frankly is just a straight beast on special teams. Ton of experience, a lot of reliability. He's got the speed to get down there, and you're bringing him in just to fulfill extra spots and special teams and at the wide receiver position. And low key, a little bit of extra depth and competition.
Yeah.
But I like what he brings as a receiver because, we talk up his special teams. Let's talk up his receiving upside as well. Yeah, a lot of his receptions are behind the lines, kind of a gadgety guy, but catch and run receiver, stockier build, yak kind of guy. That's the thing about him is, a lot of his catches come behind the line, but it's also that vision in the way he's able to bounce off tackles, and he's a tough receiver, right?
And keep his balance,
that
on the
contact
sidelines.
balance, absolutely. That's going to come into effect for our special teams duties, for our kick return duties.
And that's what you want, and that's what we need at kick return.
Right.
Law can come in and fill that role on day 1.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that we've been low-key adding to each mock is the kick return duty, because we literally don't have that.
No.
Tell me right now who's our kick returner. And don't say Jalen Warren, because you're not doing that. Don't say Caleb Johnson, because no, we're not doing that again. We need an eventual kick returner. That's why you bring this guy in.
And with his athletic upside and his athletic background, at special teams, that's where he's going to flourish. But even as an offensive weapon, there could be more coming out of Law than what his production tells. If he can make the most out of it, if he can work towards that, we'll see.
Right.
But as a special teams guy, that's where he's going to leave his impact.
Now we get into the 7th round. We only have 2 of these because we traded 230 with the Texans, just kind of to give them a little sweetener, right? 224th pick.
Could go anywhere.
Yes, literally. Like at this point, you're just filling other positions. You're filling the roster, potential practice squad guys, camp bodies, extra competition in certain rooms. Nothing too crazy. Maybe you can get a steal here and there depending on how the board falls or depending on who you select. But this is all just for, at this point in the mock, just filling other needs, filling other positions.
But you know what? I have noticed a trend when it comes to Omar Khan, since he's been the general manager, is that he likes to go with a late round defensive back. So, with the 224th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Andre Fuller, defensive back out of Toledo.
Why not go with defensive back out of Toledo? You know, Toledo defensive backs have really turned out to be some of the bigger studs in the draft.
Quite productive defensive backs, yes.
They're about to have a couple come out this year.
At the same time, why not go with another late round defensive back? Because in 2023, they took Corey Trice out of the 7th round. In 2024, they took Watts in the 6th round. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury where he can't play anymore. But in 2025 last year, they took our guy Dante Kent, Harrisburg Cat, out of the 7th round last year. So you see a bit of a trend with Omar Khan. So I can kind of see him doing something similar right here. But a guy like Andre Fuller is a depth option, a depth guy, but he's an intriguing guy for depth. He's a 6-year college player who has a great frame for an outside cornerback that can provide depth. He's 6'1", 200 pounds.
Which is kind of the build you notice with the Steelers defensive backs. They kind of like they're taller. They kind of like they're stockier, one of the more physical guys at the corner position. Corey Trice, right? You see his size. JPJ, Jamel Dean, right? You notice the size. Watts was a bit of a taller safety, right? Out of Texas. They like their taller guys, which is why we go Andre Fuller here. A guy like Fuller who worked along the defense along with Emmanuel Neal Warren, who is going to be an absolute stud in the league, by the way.
Big time.
Again, Toledo defensive backs just churn out well. Look at his stats, man. He played 13 games. Yeah, he only had 1 pick, but 11 passes defended. Bro, this guy gave up 20 catches off of 48 targets. Only 237 yards allowed and a passer rating of 56.5.
And that's coming off where he missed an entire 2024 season due to injury. So, like, he rebounded big time with quite an impressive season. So, it goes to show the guy's hustle and capabilities as a football player at cornerback.
And, of course, you know, a way he could make the roster outside of what he can do from the corner aspect, as well as being, you know, a strong run defender. He brings that effort. He brings that missile ability where, you know, he's not afraid to get down and dirty in the run game. He'll get behind the line of scrimmage and make plays, right, as a tackler. Very, very strong tackler is he. He brings special teams ability as well, which is where he's really going to have to make the roster. Is he can cover both kick and punts, which is where he'll pretty much mostly find a spot on the roster, along with competing with guys like Dante Kent and Corey Trice, who so far haven't shown you they could stay healthy.
Yeah.
You're bringing in an extra guy that worked his ass off coming off of an injury where he got hurt, and then bring him in as that competition, edge them out a little bit, and then potentially see a spot on special teams. Andre Fuller, I like a lot in the 7th round for his upside and what he did for Toledo, and just frankly, Toledo's so far good track record the last number of years with defensive backs or players in general coming out of Toledo.
That's right.
Like those Rockets just know how to play some football.
It's just throwing another flyer at the defensive back position, looking for another guy with depth qualities, but also some upside at the same time. A guy like Fuller that can start off in special teams and bring that physical side as he is as a run defender, bring that to special teams. That's a good fit for him to start off.
Yeah, and he's a bit of an older guy, 24 years old. Frankly, you're looking at him as just depth. Now, with the last pick in this mock, with the 237th overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Will Kazmarek, tight end out of the Ohio State. Primarily as a blocker. 6'5", 261. That's a big-ass blocker.
That's a big tight end right there.
That's a strong blocker. He doesn't bring much receiving upside. He doesn't bring a lot of that. He is primarily just a filthy blocker.
He's one of the better blocking tight ends in this draft class. And blocking is Kazmarek's bread and butter. And that's what's going to suit him well as that tight end 3.
Dude, this guy was even blocking edge rushers and holding his ground, bro. Really. Like, he can come in, play that extra guy in 12 or 13 personnel if you really want him to, right? I mean, imagine him and Darnell playing primary blockers.
Yes,
you
indeed,
put Muth in the slot. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, utilize Muth's production and then just take advantage of Washington's blocking capabilities and even Kazmarek's blocking capabilities right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just lethal. That's just dumb. That's bully football right there.
That's what I'm saying, man. He can come in and be the chipper. Again, he doesn't have a lot of receiving upside. It's very limited. But if you're looking for just that tight end 3, which we don't have, I don't think we have a tight end
Not
3.
off the top of my head.
So that's why you bring him in at the end of the 7th round. You're essentially filling in an extra tight end spot. You're bringing in a great blocker, what he did for Ohio State. And frankly, you're just filling that spot. And you're bringing in just another dominant blocker along that line, essentially extending and strengthening the trenches a little more, especially in goal line territory, goal line situations. You want to bring him in. You want to have him cover the edge. You want to have him chip. You want to have him do combos, get up to the second level if he needed to.
And that's the thing about him. Him as an inline blocker with his frame, again, 6'5", 261, it's big. He carries an old school demeanor as a blocker. And when it comes to him finishing his blocks, he's vicious. And as a tight end 3, that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. Like you said, goal line situations. That's a perfect fit for Will Kazmarek right here.
Yeah, he plays through the whistle. And what his role is with Ohio State, he did that exceptionally. You bring him into the Steelers. You know the Steelers love their Buckeyes. For the tight end 3 position, by all means. Frankly, I think tight end's one of those positions they will select just to fulfill that spot. And at the end of the 7th round, listen, you have one more 7th round pick. This can go anywhere to fill any spot. Throw a flyer at tight end, get yourself in an additional blocker, by all means.
And why not reunite him with old teammates Will Howard and Jack Sawyer, as he did help him win the national championship back in 2014.
Steelers love their Buckeyes, man.
They do.
They love their Buckeyes, and yeah, there's just a little bit of a extra locker room chemistry, a little bit of locker room familiarity, which the Steelers really love to add. You bring him in as such a dominant blocker there. Frankly, I like him a lot as the tight end 3 with maybe him getting an expanded role down the road depending on what happens.
Yeah.
For blocking purposes, bro, your tight end room is really strong. It's just there's a bunch of bullies in that room, dude. Bunch of great blockers.
That's some big bodies with a vicious and dominant mindset that are very effective right there.
Yeah. You want to improve the run game. You want to run some goal line positions. You want to put him a fullback, by all means.
Could do it to do. That's a big ass fullback.
That's what I'm saying. You want to put him there, put him at H-back. He can do that. That's why we go tight end here to close out this mock draft, where not only do we trade back and trade up into the second, we traded up again into the second, trading up 15 spots twice and fulfilling so many positions and getting some absolute studs in this mock draft, in my opinion. Guys, we are 2.5 weeks away from the NFL draft.
Yes, we are,
man. 2.5 weeks until we are in Pittsburgh. 2.5 weeks until we see who will be the next core of projectedly 12 future Pittsburgh Steelers. Probably less. Maybe more. I don't know. I don't know how Omar Khan's going to turn this out. All I know is between now and then, he's going to be very busy because he's got to fill in a lot of these top 30 visits for the draft. You already know there's going to be a ton of day 2 and day 1 guys that are going to be brought in. I'm very interested to see who he's going to bring in.
It's going to be very telling, yes.
In fact, the way that they're attacking these pro days is a lot different because Mike Tomlin would go to pro days all the time. Not every single one, but typically he'd go to the pro days with some of the more intriguing talent that you would think the Steelers would go after or select. Mike McCarthy's not really doing that. So it's going to be a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unpredictable what direction they're really going to go. But based off the top 30 visits, you know that's where most of the interest is being drawn. And I think some of the guys that we mocked here, they could absolutely bring in for top 30 visits. Omar Cooper, Garrett Newsmeyer, D'Angelo Pons, right? They already brought in Kendrick Law. They already brought in Kyle Lewis for a local visit. Caitlin Rutledge. I mean, more to come, right? I would hope they still bring in some extra guards and defensive linemen and offensive tackles, maybe more tight ends, right? It's going to be very interesting to see what they do the next 2.5 weeks. But
and again, I'm going to keep saying this up until we get to the draft. They got so much flexibility. They could do anything. They could go anywhere. They could do whatever. They could trade up. They could trade back. They could do both in the same mock, to which Omar Khan's done it before, if you remember 2023.
Yep.
Trade up for Broderick and then traded back in the third and still got Darnell and Nick Herbig doing that. So it's like it goes to show Omar Khan, he makes the impossible possible. Like, he is willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
So again, the flexibility, especially in having 12 picks, anything can happen.
Who's to say he doesn't take a certain position in the first and then trade back into the first? That's low-key my dream scenario.
That's another, under the radar situation.
They have so many picks. I don't think they do it, but low-key, I'm kind of wishing and hoping it happens. For it all depends on how the board falls, but I mean, I'm not going to put out some theories, but if you want to, feel free to put it down in the comments below.
Please do, guys. Please do.
Let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Let us know your guys' mock draft down in the comments below. How do you guys feel about the trade back and the trade up scenario, what we did in this mock draft? Otherwise, we have maybe one more mock draft coming out. At least one more mock draft coming out.
We got one more in us.
We got one more in us.
What was that at? Vince Carter?
Vince Carter.
Vince Carter did
It's over. It's over. Mock draft season is not over yet. Not
yet.
We still got a lot more to think and consider for at least one more mock. There could be another surprise one in there between now and then. Hit that subscribe, hit that bell for when that comes out. But otherwise,
stay tuned.
There's going to be a ton of draft content coming out as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Otherwise, let us know your guys' thoughts and your mocks. At the end of the day, here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!